Welcome to Daily Dreamer, the podcast that provides practical tips and insights to help you reach your biggest dreams. Tune in for daily doses of motivation, inspiration, and actionable advice to turn your aspirations into reality. Whether you're looking to find clarity, boost your confidence, or stay on track with your goals, Daily Dreamer is here to guide you every step of the way.
Let's dive into something super interesting today. We're going to be talking about friendship and dopamine and some really effective practices for well-being, all based on a conversation between Andrew Huberman, the neuroscientist, and Jay Shetty on the Jay Shetty Podcast. And our mission today is to uncover how, really simple tweaks can boost your social connections and motivation and even help manage those kind of pesky, repetitive thoughts, you know?
Yeah, for sure. And one of the biggest things that really stuck out to me from this conversation is this idea that, our brains don't just crave comfort and predictability. Huberman, he argues that actually kind of leaning into discomfort in certain strategic ways can be a key to unlocking greater well-being.
That's so interesting because I feel like we often associate comfort with feeling good and discomfort with not feeling good. So how does discomfort actually lead to a more positive state?
It really comes down to how our brains are wired. Huberman emphasizes the brain's need for safety and acceptance. And we often look for that through predictability in our social interactions.
Okay, so we're wired for connection and a sense of belonging. But where does the discomfort actually fit into that?
So think of the brain as a prediction machine. It's always trying to anticipate what will happen next and when our predictions are accurate. Even if the experience itself is a little bit challenging, it creates a sense of reward. And it reinforces that feeling of control.
So it's not just about avoiding discomfort, it's about strategically choosing challenges that ultimately reinforce that feeling of predictability and control in our brains. That's a really interesting way to think about it.
Yeah, exactly. And a great example of this is something that Huberman brought up, cold plunges.
Yeah.
Definitely not comfortable, but they provide a predictable physiological response. That over time leads to increased resilience.
Yeah, that makes sense. But is there anything a little bit less extreme? Are there everyday examples of ways we can leverage this whole prediction machine thing?
Oh, absolutely. Even simple acts of connection, like sending a good morning text, can tap into this conversation. Huberman shared that this simple practice can have a surprisingly powerful impact on fostering connection and reducing anxiety. And that's for both the sender and the receiver.
Wow, it's amazing how such a small gesture can make such a difference. It's a mini dose of predictable positivity that our brains are craving.
Exactly, and it highlights how profound the impact of consistent positive social interactions are on our overall well-being, and this focus on predictability also applies to something that you might not expect. Our eating habits.
Oh, really? When we eat, I wouldn't have thought of that as particularly challenging.
Right, it might not feel like a challenge in the same way as a cold plunge.
Yeah.
But for our brain, sticking to consistent meal times creates a predictable rhythm. It's all about training our bodies to anticipate and prepare for food.
So by creating that predictable rhythm, we're basically optimizing our digestion and energy levels. That's huge, I think, especially for anyone struggling with energy slumps throughout the day. I know I've definitely been guilty of skipping meals or just eating at random times.
Yeah, it's something a lot of us do.
Yeah.
But establishing those consistent meal times can make a really significant difference.
Yeah.
And speaking of practices that can positively impact our well-being, let's talk about Yoga Nidra.
Yes, Yoga Nidra. I feel like I've been hearing so much about this lately. What is so special about this practice?
So Yoga Nidra is a very unique form of guided meditation that promotes deep relaxation while you're still conscious. And it encourages a shift from, our usual thinking and doing mode to a state of just being and feeling.
I've heard it described as a way to access a state of deep rest that's even more restorative than sleep.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. And the research on its benefits is really compelling. Studies have shown that practicing Yoga Nidra can lead to a really significant increase in dopamine levels, specifically in the basal ganglia, which is a part of the brain associated with reward and motivation.
Wasn't it a 60% increase in baseline dopamine levels that they found? That's huge.
Yeah, exactly. That's why it's so powerful for restoring our mental and physical vigor. Not only does it help us manage stress and improve sleep quality, but it also has the potential to boost motivation and just our overall sense of well-being.
So it's not just about relaxation. It sounds like Yoga Nidra has a really profound impact on our brain chemistry and overall energy levels.
Absolutely. And what's really interesting is that it achieves these results by encouraging an inward focus on bodily sensations rather than, focusing on thoughts. And this shift in attention allows for a much deeper level of relaxation and restoration.
That's fascinating. It sounds like a practice that could really benefit anyone looking to manage stress, improve their sleep, or even just feel more energized and motivated throughout the day.
Exactly. It's a simple but powerful practice that can really transform our relationship with our minds and bodies. And this whole theme of transformation extends to another area of the brain that Huberman and Shetty discussed, which is the anterior mid-singulate cortex, or the ACC.
Okay, the ACC, I'm not as familiar with this part of the brain. What is its role and how does it relate to our well-being?
So the ACC is a fascinating and relatively unknown area of the brain. It's located deep within the brain and seems to be heavily involved in our ability to push through challenges, which researchers call tenacity.
So it's like the brain's willpower center, the part that helps us stay motivated and focused, even when things get tough.
Exactly. And what's incredible is that studies have shown that the ACC actually grows in volume when we engage in challenging activities, even if they're things we'd rather avoid.
Wait, so our brains are actually rewarding us for embracing discomfort.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, it is. And it really supports this idea that discomfort, when approached strategically, can be a powerful catalyst for growth.
So it's not just about, feeling good all the time. It's about challenging ourselves in ways that ultimately lead to greater resilience and mental strength.
Precisely. And there's another really fascinating connection here. Researchers have found that individuals who maintain exceptional cognitive function later in life, often referred to as superagers, they tend to have a more robust ACC.
So there's a link between a strong ACC and a willingness to embrace discomfort. And maintaining our mental sharpness as we age, that's incredible.
It is, and it suggests that consciously incorporating challenges into our lives, even small ones, could play a significant role in our long-term cognitive health.
Yeah, it really underscores the idea that our brains are incredibly adaptable. Even later in life, we can still strengthen those neural pathways associated with willpower and tenacity.
So it's never too late to start embracing those small, uncomfortable challenges. Exactly. Even something as simple as trying a new recipe or taking a different route to work can activate the ACC and contribute to greater mental flexibility.
I love that it's like a little workout for our brains. And speaking of challenges, Huberman and Shetty also talked about how we navigate that often overwhelming world of social media.
Yeah, and this is where their conversation takes a really fascinating turn. Huberman actually uses the phrase public evacuation of emotion to describe that constant barrage of feelings we encounter online.
That's such a powerful image. It really captures the feeling of being bombarded with everyone's raw, unfiltered emotions. It can be exhausting, especially for those of us who are maybe more sensitive to energy.
Absolutely, and it's something that Huberman himself admits to struggling with. He acknowledges that being highly sensitive to energy can make it really challenging to navigate the intensity of online interactions.
So how do we manage this constant influx of emotional energy without completely disconnecting from the digital world?
Well, Shetty offers a really insightful perspective here. He suggests that rather than judging or dismissing this outpouring of emotion, we try to approach it with empathy and compassion.
That's a great reminder. It's easy to get caught up in the negativity or the drama. But remembering that there's a human being behind every post can help us cultivate a more compassionate online experience.
Exactly. Shetty sees this outpouring of emotion as a symptom of a deeper societal issue, suggesting that many people feel unheard, unseen, or just let down by the systems that are supposed to support them.
It's like a collective cry for help, a way of expressing pain that hasn't found another outlet.
Precisely. And so rather than adding to the noise or the negativity, Shetty encourages us to respond with kindness and understanding, even when it's challenging.
That's a powerful practice. It's not about condoning harmful behavior, but it's about recognizing the humanity behind even the most challenging interactions.
Exactly, and Huberman echoes this sentiment, adding that while he believes in personal responsibility, he also recognizes the impact of systemic issues on individual well-being.
It's a nuanced perspective that recognizes the interplay between our individual choices and those larger forces that shape our lives. So how do we take care of ourselves amidst all of this?
Well, both Huberman and Shetty emphasize the importance of cultivating our own emotional resilience. We can't control the actions or emotions of others, but we can control how we respond.
So it's about building up our own inner strength and developing those tools to navigate difficult emotions without being completely swept away by them.
Exactly. And this can involve a variety of practices like mindfulness or meditation, or even just taking breaks from social media when we need them.
It's about recognizing that we have a right to protect our own emotional well-being and to create healthy boundaries in that digital space.
Absolutely. And this idea of recognizing and honoring our own energy is something that Huberman explores in kind of an unexpected way through his fascination with different dog breeds.
Wait, dog breeds, how does that tie into our own energy?
It might seem like a random tangent, but it actually speaks to a deeper point about the unique energetic blueprints that we all embody.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
So Huberman shares his love for bulldogs. He's drawn to their calm, stoic nature, and he finds their presence incredibly soothing. He even describes them as the essence of efficiency.
Yeah, I can see that bulldogs have like a very grounded, chill energy.
Exactly. But he contrasts this with breeds that are more energetic and constantly on the move, admitting that their frenetic energy can sometimes make him feel anxious.
So he's recognizing that different energies have a different impact on him, and that he's naturally drawn to certain types of energy over others.
Precisely. And he extends this observation to humans, suggesting that we all have a unique energetic blueprint that influences how we interact with the world.
That's fascinating. It makes me think about those people who just like radiate a certain energy. You know, you're instantly drawn to their warmth or inspired by their enthusiasm.
It's like we can sense those energetic vibes even if we're not consciously aware of it. And Huberman suggests that we can actually learn a lot about ourselves and others by paying attention to those subtle energetic cues.
So instead of just focusing on what people are saying, we should also be paying attention to the energy they're bringing to the interaction.
Exactly. It's a more holistic way of understanding communication and connection.
It's like tuning into a whole other layer of the conversation.
Precisely. And this ties back to the importance of self-awareness and recognizing how our own energy impacts those around us.
So if we're feeling stressed or anxious, it's likely that others will pick up on that energy, even if we're trying to hide it.
Exactly. And on the flip side, if we're feeling calm and grounded, that energy can have a positive ripple effect on those around us.
It's like we're all interconnected, energetic beings, constantly influencing and being influenced by the energy fields around us.
Precisely. And this leads to another fascinating anecdote that Huberman shares about his friend, the music producer Rick Rubin.
Okay, Rick Rubin, what's his energy like?
So Huberman describes Rubin as having this remarkable ability to connect with the energy of music and people without being overwhelmed or consumed by it.
So it's like he can be fully present and engaged without losing his own sense of center.
Exactly. And Huberman admires this quality, suggesting that it's a skill we can all cultivate through practices like mindfulness and meditation.
So it's about learning to observe our own energy, our emotions and thoughts, without getting completely swept away by them.
Precisely. It ties back to the earlier discussion about surrendering control. We don't need to grasp at every thought or feeling that arises.
By creating space and allowing our experiences to flow through us, we can maintain a greater sense of balance and equanimity.
Exactly. And this inner stability is key to navigating the complexities of life, especially in the digital age.
It's about finding that sweet spot where we can be fully present and engaged without losing ourselves in that whirlwind of emotions and opinions that surround us.
Absolutely. And it requires a willingness to be honest with ourselves about how certain people, environments, and even online content make us feel.
So it's about being more discerning about the energy we allow into our lives, both online and offline.
Exactly. And that includes being mindful of the energy we bring to our interactions.
So it's a two-way street. We need to be aware of both the energy we're receiving and the energy we're projecting.
Precisely. And this requires a level of self-awareness that we can cultivate through practices like mindfulness and meditation.
It's like building a muscle, but for our attention and our ability to regulate our own energy.
Exactly. And as we become more attuned to our own energy, we can start to make more conscious choices about how we engage with the world around us.
So it's not just about avoiding negativity. It's about consciously choosing to surround ourselves with people, environments, and experiences that uplift and inspire us.
Precisely. And it's about recognizing that we have a right to create a life that feels good, both energetically and emotionally.
That's a beautiful reminder, and it speaks to the importance of honoring our individual needs and preferences.
Absolutely. And that includes embracing the qualities that make us unique, even if they don't always fit the mold.
So instead of trying to be like everyone else, we should celebrate the quirks and perspective that make us who we are.
Exactly. And this is something that both Huberman and Shetty emphasize. They encourage us to honor our individual wiring, recognizing that we each have unique strengths and sensitivities.
It's about recognizing that our differences are what make us valuable, and that by embracing our authenticity, we can inspire others to do the same.
Precisely. And this involves letting go of the need to be perfect and embracing the fullness of who we are with all our complexities and imperfections.
It's about creating space for all parts of ourselves to be seen and heard, and recognizing that true safety and acceptance come from embracing our wholeness.
Exactly, and this journey of self-discovery is ongoing. It requires a willingness to be open, curious, and compassionate with ourselves.
It's about recognizing that we're all works in progress, and that's perfectly okay.
Absolutely. And this acceptance of ourselves with all our imperfections paves the way for greater acceptance of others.
It's like that saying, we can't give what we don't have. If we haven't cultivated self-compassion, it's much harder to extend compassion to others.
Precisely. And this focus on compassion, both for ourselves and others, is central to the message that Huberman and Shetty are sharing.
It's about recognizing that we're all interconnected, and that by fostering a sense of unity and understanding, we can create a more harmonious world.
Exactly, and that requires a willingness to step outside of our comfort zones, to challenge our assumptions, and to approach difficult conversations with curiosity and an open mind.
It's about recognizing that even in the face of disagreement, we can still choose to connect on a human level.
Precisely, and that's a powerful choice, one that has the potential to transform not only our individual lives, but also the world around us.
Yeah, it's a powerful reminder that even amidst all our differences, there's always that common ground to be found. It might take a little more effort, a willingness to kind of step outside our usual ways of thinking and interacting. But that effort can really lead to some profound shifts in how we experience the world.
Absolutely. And that willingness to step outside our comfort zones, to embrace the unknown. That's a theme that runs with this whole conversation.
Totally. And we were talking earlier about the brain as a prediction machine. Well, it turns out that sometimes the most rewarding predictions are the ones that surprise us, the ones that challenge our preconceived notions about what's possible.
Exactly. Huberman and Shetty both emphasize that true transformation often happens when we're willing to embrace discomfort, to lean into those experiences that make us feel a little uneasy.
Yeah, it's like that old saying, growth happens outside your comfort zone. But they're talking about something much deeper than that, like a fundamental shift in perspective, a willingness to see discomfort as an opportunity for expansion, rather than something to be avoided at all costs.
Right. It's not about seeking out pain or suffering or anything like that. It's about recognizing that discomfort is often a sign that we're on the verge of a breakthrough. It's in those moments of challenge that we discover our true strength and resilience.
And Huberman uses a really great analogy to illustrate this point. He talks about his experience with cold plunges and how that initial shock of immersing himself in cold water triggers this intense surge of adrenaline.
Yeah, he describes it as hitting this wall of discomfort. But instead of resisting it or trying to escape that discomfort, he's learned to ride those waves, to just stay present with the sensations and observe how his body and mind respond.
Wow, so he's basically training himself to stay calm and collected in the face of intense physical stress.
Exactly, and he suggests that this practice translates to other areas of life as well, whether it's a difficult conversation, a creative block, or just a personal setback. By learning to navigate discomfort, we develop that mental fortitude to face challenges with greater ease and clarity.
It's like building a mental muscle, a muscle that allows us to stay grounded and centered, even when things get tough.
Precisely. And this ties back to the anterior cingulate cortex, that area of the brain associated with tenacity and willpower. Remember how we talked about how the ACC actually grows in volume when we engage in challenging activities?
Yeah, it's like our brains are actually rewarding us for pushing our boundaries, for embracing that discomfort that ultimately leads to growth.
Exactly. And those rewards can be profound, a deeper sense of self-awareness, increased resilience, a more expansive view of the world. It's about realizing that we're capable of so much more than we often give ourselves credit for.
And sometimes all it takes is a willingness to step outside our comfort zones, to face those fears and doubts that have been holding us back.
It's about recognizing that on the other side of discomfort lies a whole world of possibilities, just waiting to be explored.
And along with embracing discomfort, Huberman and Shetty also talk about the importance of finding your voice and speaking your truth.
Yeah, it's about tapping into that unique perspective that each of us brings to the world and having the courage to share it authentically.
In a world that often feels like there's so much pressure to conform, it can be easy to lose sight of our own inner compass, to silence that voice that whispers our deepest truths. But they're reminding us that expressing ourselves authentically is so essential for living a fulfilling and meaningful life.
Yeah, Shetty actually shares his own journey of overcoming self-doubt and learning to express himself more freely. And he emphasizes that it was a gradual process, one that required him to face his fears and embrace vulnerability.
So it's like he had to step outside his own comfort zone to find that authentic voice that was waiting to be heard.
Exactly. And Huberman adds that it's not just about sharing our thoughts and ideas, it's also about how we communicate, how we show up in our interactions with others. It's about listening, deeply speaking, with intention, and being present in the moment.
Yeah, it's about recognizing the power of our words and using them to uplift, inspire, and connect with others on a deeper level.
And it ties back to the earlier discussion about empathy and compassion. By speaking our truth authentically, we create space for others to do the same. We fostered this culture of openness and understanding where differences are celebrated, and everyone feels safe to share their unique perspective.
It's about recognizing that our voices matter, that each of us has something valuable to contribute to the world.
And that brings us to kind of the final piece of this puzzle,
Yeah.
this idea of surrendering to a greater force.
It's so interesting because both Huberman and Shetty,
Nice.
though coming from different backgrounds and using different language, they both speak to this idea of letting go of control and trusting in something larger than ourselves.
Right, Huberman, as a scientist, he talks about surrendering to these universal forces that govern the universe. And he suggests that this surrender allows us to access a wisdom that's beyond our limited understanding.
And Shetty, from his spiritual perspective, speaks about the importance of connecting with a higher power and surrendering to the divine will.
They're both pointing to the same truth, that by letting go of our ego's grip on how we think things should be, we open ourselves to a greater flow of wisdom and guidance and even miracles.
It's about recognizing that we're not in control of everything, and that sometimes the most powerful thing we can do is surrender, to trust in the unfolding of our own unique journey.
It's about having faith that even when we can't see the path ahead, there's a force guiding us, supporting us, and leading us towards our highest good.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into this incredibly insightful conversation, I want to leave you with this final thought. What if instead of constantly striving, pushing, and trying to control everything, you chose to embrace discomfort, speak your truth, and surrender to something larger than yourself?
What might become possible in your life if you let go of the need to know all the answers and trusted in the unfolding of your own unique journey?
That's the invitation that Huberman and Shetty are leaving us with. It's a call to step into our full potential, to embrace our wholeness, and to trust in that wisdom that resides within us all.
And that concludes our deep dive for today.
As always, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time on The Deep Dive